this is a lake in Mexico. This is actually, it's called Lake Chapala. It's the largest lake in Central America. I lived in Mexico on one of the villages along that lake. And I fell in love with that place because, as you can see, it's really beautiful. And the people there are amazing. And the culture is so rich. And there is really so many reasons why I think, to fall in love with Mexico in general, and especially this place. But the more I got to live there, the more I was exposed to a certain problem the lake has, which is a spread of a plant, which is the water hyacinth plant. And I'm sure many of you know it. And I think, sorry? Yeah, lirio de agua. Uh, it's a plant, it's an aquatic plant. And what happened with this plant is escape. It's actually escaped a botanical garden in Mexico, and it ended up in this huge lake, the biggest lake in Central America. And the conditions were perfect for this plant, and it started to spread. But the spreading of this plant actually, since it's not native to the lake, it caused a lot of negative environmental impacts, damaged the other aquatic plants. It really competed aggressively, and the native fish. And it also really socially and economically, it created a real issue for the fishermen. They were really struggling to keep with their fishing activities in the lake. And it provided a breeding ground for mosquitoes that could carry and transmit disease. And the water quality really deteriorated in result of that. And now you can see in this photo, fishermen actually trying to fish inside of that, but it really complicated. There were actually fishermen that were fishing with lines. They later adapted to fishing boats because the plant didn't left them any choice. They just couldn't do the line fishing anymore. And it really slowly collapsed the whole industry of fishing in that lake. And it was their main income. It also impacted tourism because people were not as keen at coming. You couldn't swim in the lake. So it really changed the whole eco-social fabric in that lake. And it also created health concerns due to the mosquitoes breeding. And so a solution that some people were trying to promote was to bring this beautiful animal, which is a manatee. A lot of you know it. It's like a cow in the water. It's huge, and it eats a lot of plant material, which some would say, "Wow, interesting idea. It could be interesting." What do you think happened when they implemented this solution? No predators. Interesting. They ate everything, which is what they wanted, which is interesting. But you're saying they ate everything out of control, right? They not selective, only choose the water hyacinth. So yes, their waste, interesting. I think all of those are probably true, but for me, what was the saddest to discover after, not to mention they spend a lot of money to transpose. They're not native to Mexico. They had to bring them from somewhere else. You can imagine bringing those huge animals. They imported them from other countries, which, not to mention about that. The saddest thing is nobody really informed the local population that they're going to introduce these animals into the lake. The people there, they know this lake like the back of their hand. They know every animal that lives there. All of a sudden, they see these huge animals. Their reaction was, this is probably a monster or something like that. And they eliminated them. Luckily, this was an experiment. It wasn't like a full-scale implementation. But when I heard about this when I kind of slowly investigated and wrapped my head around it, I was devastated. I was just so sad to discover all these, cause of events. And that was for me one of my moments in life where it set me off on a path. And I'm sure many of you here also have some kind of moment in their life that brought you here to try to make another reality, to try to live in an ecological community. And I think we all share that. In my mind, that's the glue that kind of bind us here. If you ask me, I'm sure each one of us has a different perspective, but this is for me my story, and this is why I ended up in Well, I guess what I learned from this experience, I learned that really things are very complex. That's the thing I learned mostly, I think, from it. That if we really want to find good solutions for problems, we can't just have the old mentality of like, yeah, let's isolate the problem. They're just gonna bring this manatee. They're gonna eat the grass. No, things are much more complicated and complex than that, and we need to think of all the different aspects: ecological, economical, and social. And um, and that's kind of what brought me to permaculture, because permaculture really asks the question behind permaculture is, can we create a permanent culture? This is the two words: permanent culture, permaculture. And so this is what it is, what it's all about. Basically, it's a question. It's a simple question that it's asking us as a human culture: can we do it? Can we create a permanent culture? And the way permaculture is offering us to do that is by design. It's basically saying, well, if we get the design really, really good, we can make a difference. We can do things right. And the two main elements that support the design are the permaculture ethics and the permaculture design principles. Those are the foundational pieces of permaculture. And it takes inspiration from system thinking, biomimicry, and ancestral wisdom. I'm not going to have time to get into all of those here in this talk. I'll be happy to do more talks, of course, in the future and share, and we all can learn together, because I see this is a never ending process. I'm always learning, always trying to evolve my understanding of permaculture and get better at it. So, this is an invitation also for all of us to kind of engage in this question. And I feel if we came here, probably we're interested in that. And so, the only way we can do this really is together. So, this is basically an open invitation. I just wanted to put this here. I'm not going to go into detail, but these are the three permaculture ethics: the earth care, people care, and fair share. These are the ethics that guide every permaculture design. These are the main questions these are the indicators of, are we doing this right or not, which hopefully will help us create that permanent culture that we're looking to create. Storing water in tanks or cisterns is an amazing strategy to reduce stress from the aquifers, reducing stress from the creeks if you're taking water from the creeks, which we won't do for drinking. But what you can do with that water is flush down your toilets, for example. Why flushing down your toilets with good portable water? Not to say that rainwater is not good for drinking, but it's coming down anyway. Why not store it and use it to flush our toilets, wash vegetables, do all the things we can do in order to really reduce stress on the aquifers. Um, Remember, this talk is about land care, right? Is about, and so water is so important, from the obvious reasons I don't think I need to mention. And water can also create erosion. That's something, erosion is a serious problem. I won't get into the statistics and everything, but we're losing a lot of soil, and we have a limited amount of soil. And soil is such a precious resource. We depended on it, so we want to make sure that we retain as much soil as possible on our land. Also, because we want it to grow our plants, and erosion, it's something we need to be mindful of. If we see patterns of erosion, it's like a red alert that should light up and say we need to take action, because it's one of those things that if you don't treat it, it's going to get worse and worse, and it's really hard to reverse back. So the faster you can treat erosion, the better. And there's many techniques and ways to treat erosion. I just wanted to mention one here, which is counter planting. We're basically planting perpendicular to the slope to slow down water, okay, and make sure it doesn't gain velocity and all the sediments gonna get stopped. This is vetiver grass. In this case, you can plant it along contour, and it could be really effective in managing erosion. And now we're gonna talk a little bit about coming back to soil, but from another angle, soil regeneration. This is kind of an image that I think is lacking a lot of elements, but just to make a point. Okay, this is the difference between bare soil and cover soil. Okay, just something that I think is important to understand, that bare soil releases CO2 into the atmosphere, and also all the water evaporates really fast into the atmosphere. On the contrast, if we have our soil covered either with live crops, which is great, or with mulch, we protect it from evaporation, because it's not going to get heated up. The water try to evaporate, get trapped up in the mulch or the plants, and gonna condensate back down into the soil. And we're also, in this case, we're bringing back carbon into the soil and we're maintaining it there. There's many more techniques, obviously, but this is just a quick summary. Um, this is the difference between monoculture and polyculture, which is another way to say either we. So here, if you take a trip up the watershed, which I think is a good term maybe to understand. When I say watershed, what it means technically is a geographical area that every raindrop that falls within that geographical area, because of the landform, gets concentrated and maintained within that geographical area. Usually it's gonna end up in a creek or a river or the ocean or a lake, but it's not gonna, because of the topography, it's not gonna move out of that on the runoff. So if you go up the watershed, you're gonna find some land practices that use this kind of models of monoculture, either for coffee, or it could be also cattle is a type of monoculture. And usually it creates a lot of erosion, a lot of land degradation. Or you can find these beautiful polycultures of multiple species that respect all the different layers of the canopy and can be really productive, but also beneficial for the soil. And this is a photo of an agroforestry system that, again, stacks the function and can also be producing food for us. In the same time, we regenerate the soil by constantly reintroducing organic material into it. We're really accelerating the nutrient cycle because we activate all the fungal activity, and it's just beautiful to see, and it's could be a really effective solution for maintaining it. So, and also, well, we talked about mulch. I can't talk enough about mulch. It is really so important. We can also consider diverse vegetation cover. It doesn't have to be, production trees. You can also have ornamental things. The important is to diversify a lot and to really make sure you're covering your soil so you protect it from the strong rains. And nutrient cycle is also important. This is an interesting product. It's a biodigester, but it's for a family. So you can install it in your house. What you do with it, basically, you throw your organic waste into it, and in return, you get cooking gas, and also you get liquid fertilizer where you can go and you water your plants either by hand or you can automate it through an irrigation system. These kind of things, we talk about compost. There's many ways to introduce nutrients back to the soil, but this is just one of them. And then coming back a little bit to the permaculture design and how we can make sure we put things in the right place. And this is again ficus common area. This is a site analysis, very common in permaculture. What we analyze here is the sun path. We want to identify different hazards, different energies, different movement, anything we can think about that can enrich our decisions about where should we put our house, where should we put other elements, how should orientate things, because this is something I think is really important when you talk with your architects, with your designers. In my perspective, make sure they not only know the term bioclimatic design, they actually implement it, they actually use it in their designs, they understand deeply what it means, because you're in the tropics. And again, coming back to how to become sustainable, this is one of the things that I think is so important, right? Is like making the right decisions in terms of where should I put my house? Is it gonna be facing the sun? Is it gonna be facing the prevailing winds? How are we gonna orient things? And inside of the house, there's so many decisions we want to take. All of this is in the realm of bioclimatic design. Your architect should know these things. Cross ventilation, really important, and materials you're selecting. Elevate your house maybe to increase airflow. And planting trees around the house is also really important. You want to think again, am I planting things in a way that really benefits ventilation in the house, or am I blocking the wind from coming into my house? Is my site really exposed? Do I need to protect it from winds, right? Or do I have a humid site where I actually need to make sure that air is circulating through the site in order to not get too much mold problems and humidity problems? So this is, for example, is a windbreak. design is a specific design for a mini forest that you can plant that will help the wind jump above your structure if that's needed, or maybe you want actually the wind to come into your structure. Those decisions you can design and prioritize. Um, oh yes, thank you. So another thing to remember when you think about your house, there is many birds here, and Gustavo, which is a biologist and a botanist, he will talk more about the wildlife here. But I think in terms of the house design itself is really important to consider windows, because birds see the window and they think it's a corridor, they can fly through it, and they hit it, and most often they just die, and it's really sad. And we need to think, okay, what, we're gonna build at least 280 houses here, probably more. Think about the amount of birds we can put in danger just by putting windows. Well, it's not something we think, and this is why I think permaculture is really interesting, because coming back, it's an eco-social design methodology. So we think about the social aspect. It's our decisions that really can make things sustainable or not sustainable. So there are solutions. One of the simplest solutions for the bird and windows kind of thing is to not build straight windows. If you put them in an angle, the reflection won't come out straight. This is not by any means a 100% bird proof solution, but I really encourage you with your architect to explore those solutions and make sure you're not because I know the feeling. It just feels bad when birds get stuck in your way. You won't feel good about it. I can promise you that. So yes, um, and then in the end, to kind of starting to wrap it up, system thinking is a huge inspiration and guiding force for permaculture. It's basically one of the terms we use in permaculture: integrate rather than segregate. Is how can we make the sum bigger than the separate element, right? And really what we want to do is think outside of only our property. We're in the context of Ecovia San Mateo. We probably want to consider how animals gonna move through the landscape. What impact does the decisions we take have on those animals, like birds? And there's many animals here. Gustavo, I'm sure, gonna mention some of the animals we observed here. And so, but also, we come from a global culture. This is really where permaculture is encouraging us to acknowledge and recognize that the decisions we make together gonna impact our whole culture. And so coming back to our little place and how we can step out of that and start to integrate further, this is but also doing this is a kind of a fractal. It's kind of a fractal thing we do in permaculture. We look at it within the context of the landscape of our little lot, and see really how we can integrate all the different elements there, because this is where we can make sustainable systems shine, but also thinking beyond that. So this is something I think is interesting to notice, that Ecovia San Mateo, our property as a whole, the whole project, is in between two biological corridors in Costa Rica. On the right is Montes de Aguacate biological corridor. On the left is Osleo biological corridors. And it's really interesting because there are two different ecosystems. One is encouraging movement from the coast, and one is from the mountains, and they meet here. This is a really special place, and that's why one of the reasons we see a lot of interesting animals moving through our property. And if you analyze the critical path where animals move across Ecovia San Mateo, this is at least for me, it's a guiding map of where we should plant, really strong living biological corridors to make sure we still have that animal movement, but I can't control what each one of you do in your own property. So I encourage you to participate in that if you feel called to, and also consider how your decisions within your lot gonna be tied back into this biological corridor, which is greater than just our individual lots. Um, and another really important thing to kind of, I think, ground back into is the hydrological cycle. We're talking about water, and I'm sure we're all familiar with the concept of the hydrological cycle. Um, we know we have the same amount of water in the planet. It's not gonna all of a sudden become greater, right? It's the same water, and only 1% of that whole water we have is good drinking water. So it's a ridiculous amount. We really need to make sure we protect. And within the hydrological cycle, there are things that are crucial for it to keep going as a machine. It's like a machine that keeps moving and cycling and cleaning that water. And some of those elements are trees. Trees are actually a major player in the hydrological cycle. And once cultures like our culture decide that tree is actually a commodity product that we can monetize and just sell it and cut it and do whatever we want, there are implications for the hydrological cycle. We disrupt the hydrological cycle by doing that, and it has many implications. Many implications. Increased flooding, increased droughts, increased temperatures, and all these things that nobody wants to hear about. It's really depressing. I'm sorry, but it's a reality that I think is worth mentioning because we take our water from the ground, our drinking water. This is where it's going to come from. We're going to dig wells, and that's where the water. But it's not like we have an infinite amount of water there, right? So every time we pump water from there, we need to think about that. That's actually water that has been now, it's less water within that aquifer that we can actually use. So we need to be first conscious about how we use water, but also we need to ask ourselves, what can we do in order to make sure the hydrological cycle stays healthy? And there's many things we can do. Don't despair. There is hope. There is hope. There's a lot of things we can do. And one of the things that me and Gustavo and other neighbors here around the valley have started an initiative. It's the watershed regeneration initiative. This is kind of the invitation I wanted to put it out there for you. If you feel called, maybe it's not now, maybe it's later, but at some point it would be great if we all can join this effort, which is basically looking at the watershed. This is our watershed. This is actually a micro watershed. It's a watershed within a watershed because the watershed is actually really big. And in order for making it, kind of, let's say, productive to start thinking about how to manage such a large territory, we look at a micro watershed, which is it's basically our little watershed. And here is the Covia San Mateo, all the way down here. This is the top of the watershed. This is the area that is critical for us to make sure it maintain healthy vegetative cover for the very least. For there's so many other aspects, and of course, to talk about that, excluding all the economical and social aspects would be ridiculous. But this is not. This is not for this talk. This is too complex. But this is the kind of stuff we talk about in the group we have, and just to kind of orient yourself, this is San Mateo right here. Covia San Mateo, like Covia, the original one, Tacotal. These are our neighbor federation of communities. And all the other communities, there are Costa Rican communities which are beautiful, and they're, what I love so much about Costa Rica, and I think the reason why I'm here is because the people here, they're just so appreciative of nature, and they're so mindful and conscious and so wise about nature. And they literally all want to achieve the same goal. So this is really inspiring to me, and I think really motivating to know that everybody here are aligned with that kind of work that needs to get done. It's not a question about how to do it either, because we have the tools to do it. It's just about doing it. It's just about being there and getting together and talking and just moving this forward. And so this is something that we are really excited about that is happening. This is a meeting of that group in the municipality here in Covia San Mateo. Covia San Mateo, no, in San Mateo in the municipality. And we talk about different strategies, and it's just great. It's just a great project and initiative. And here, what you can see, why is it so important? You might ask yourself, why is it critical? This map shows us in red all the areas that literally have been at some point deforested, and right now it's kind of, the land management is not great. It could be improved, but it's not about pointing fingers. It's not about blaming anybody. There's reasons why those lands are poorly managed. The whole eco-social aspect is intertwined so tightly together, and so it's basically finding solutions together. This is what we're doing right now within that group. Um, and so, kind of finally, I hope I didn't took too much time. I'm just gonna look at it. Oh, okay. Um, I'm just gonna wrap up with this. This is so to kind of put it back into the context of Ecovia San Mateo. This is a list of indicators that I put together that I thought it could be interesting. As it's a first draft, this is something I hope as a community we can work on together. What indicators we want to start measuring and monitoring in order to gauge how well we're really achieving the goal if we share this goal of making a sustainable regenerative community. This is kind of putting a mirror and asking ourselves how well we're meeting those goals. And as you can see, we're not at all, as you can saw along this talk, it's not about ecology, it's about humans and their harmony or disharmony with nature and the environment. And so this is has yes ecological indicators, but also communal social aspects that we should take in consideration as we think about how well we're doing. And now Gustavo is gonna talk a lot about the flora and the fauna and all the incredible work he's doing here on the project. And yeah, thank you for your time.
I fully admire Yam, and it's impressive how every time I talk to him, I have a talk with him, I learn something. So having a talk after him, it's so easy for me because he explained it a lot of what I was going to tell. So thank you, Yam, for that. And I also admire him because he's really belonging to this place. He has been living here, right here, for a few months. Yam, how long? Or year? A year. Wow. So he really belongs to this place. The sense of belonging I have in mind is more that the land doesn't belong to us. If not, we belong to the place as we start living there. And yeah, before starting,
Doing that, feel yourself as part of this earth. We are talking about earth care. We are talking about caring ourselves, being kind with ourselves. Now I will ask you to put your hands in cup shape, the cup shape, and then you can hit there. Make some percussion. Let's get some rhythm. Those points are the gallbladder point and the spleen point. So it's an activation for us. Then we can go to the other side. Yes. So there was an activation for remembering that we are part of this earth, that we should take care of the land because we're going to live here, so we are going to be part of this land, and depending on the health of this land is how we will live.
so yeah, this is about caring of ourselves as well. And yeah, I've been in this land walking and having extraordinary moments for the last almost year and a half with nature. And so I feel really proud to be here to share a little of what I have experienced then and how I am supporting this project. So you will see a lot of this word bio there because I'm a biologist. And so I'm interested in all what is life. That's the meaning of bio. And biophilia, as you can read there, I will read it for you. A hypothetical human tendency to interact or be closely associated with other forms of life in nature. That's one way of defining that. A desire or tendency to commune with nature. the passionate love of life and of all that is alive. So those are three ways of defining biophilia. Maybe we have experienced that in some part of our life. Maybe we are learning how to love nature, or maybe we already love nature. I put three pictures there. I'm not sure if you can see well the pictures, but if you go to the river right here, you swim, you will find spiders right on the edge of the water, which are fishing spiders. And for some people, the spider represents something, and for others represents different things. I've guided groups in Costa Rica of students from different parts of the world, and the reactions to nature are so different. And in the last days, weeks, I have seen in the chat a lot of issues with spiders in houses, and yeah, spiders are there because they have been here for thousands of years, and we cannot put them away of where they are. So if you go to the river, you have the chance to observe that spider and see what it's doing. It's a fishing spider. It's so impressive what she does there in the water and how she fishes there. So right next there is a caterpillar, a very interesting one with some type of eyes in its body to repel predators. And it's the same, you have the chance to observe, to see what's the message for you every time, or have a reaction of fear. And that's the opposite of love. So what I feel is our work is like transcending that fear and transforming it into love. That's the what biophilia is about. And so that's a caterpillar. And then right next, this is an interesting story of the tent making bat. The tent making bat is a bat that knows exactly where to cut in leaves to create its own tent. So mostly they will look for big leaves, and they will create tents for many bats to live in there. And right now they are living under the roofs of the office right there. If you walk right inside the roof, you will find many of them, or sometimes around these roofs. And in that casita over there in the back, there are hundreds of them. And there is a culvert that crosses this road where I can tell there could be even thousands. So if you go there and check, there are many of those bats over here. They are not making their tents. Why do you think they're not making their tents? Sorry? They don't need to. They're made for them. Yeah. We cut down a tree. The palms and the specific plants that they need, that they have learned for thousands of years. So those plants disappeared. What we have here in this land, and what Jan was mentioning about the watershed and how some areas look in red, is the result of the action of 7 generations before us that were working here in this land, doing their things. And now that's what we got here. So it's a result of some human activities, like this building over here, believe it or not, the past generation used it for having a place for extracting sugarcane juice. It's called trapiche. So right there where you're sitting, there was a trapiche over there. That's why it's called a trapiche. So we are inheriting things, and we are now transforming for the next 7 generations. So it's up to us what our next 7 generations will get. So this bat over here is wanting to have the plants that they used to have for their nesting, for the tents. It's a beautiful one. Take a look. And I don't know if you like bats, if you have loved bats already, but they do a lot of nice work for us. They pollinate, they disperse seeds, they eat all the insects that bother us. So they're precious. So another word starting with bio, biomimicry. The biomimicry approach aims to favor choices tested by nature, which had millions of years to understand what works best and what doesn't. So nature is there, and we can inspire in nature every moment. You know, the thing is that the best is inspiring nature in the place where you're planning to do your work. So if you travel in Costa Rica, you will see a lot of different ecosystems and microclimates very close. So if you find a solution, let's say 2 hours from here, it will not be the same than it is here. And there is an area of this land which is forested, a huge area which is forested, and that give us the chance to inspire there, to see, to monitor what we are doing based on what is in that forest. The forest has the clues for our work, our inspiration. And thinking how to build your house, I think it's not a bad idea to see how animals live here, how wasps make their nests. It's amazing how wasps make different types of nests. How they manage with the humidity or with the dryness. With all that, it's so amazing. So the biomimicry again is this is a tree you can see there well, but this is a fig tree, one of the fig trees on the top of this mountain in that direction. It's a line of really beautiful fig trees over there. And there in their architecture, they have a lot of clues for us, not only for building, just since for if we like to paint or if you like to do farming. There is a lot of information in the forest to do farming. So that's the point that so biomimicry is again the scientific research-based practice of learning from and then replicating nature's forms, processes, and ecosystems to create regenerative designs. It's our solution. So what is there in that forest is what will bring us to understand better what we will do here. And but regenerative designs, I think Jan introduced the word already, but it's nice to go to the deep meaning of what it is. Regenerative is related to something growing or being grown again. A regenerative process causes something to heal or become active again after it has been damaged or inactive. And that's what we need to do here. Part of this land, like mainly the grasslands, have been kind of like paused in their activity or they're not in their full potential because of the activities before. So now it's when we can introduce the regenerative approach to improve that land, the land that will be surrounding your houses, the community lands. And as Yam introduced, we need to work in the water cycle. He explained really well how we need to prevent evaporation, how we need to promote water infiltration, and about the soil cycle, what we can do is something that has been done here. As there were animals here before, there was a lot of manure spread everywhere, and that has been composted and been added in different parts of the land. The soil should never be bare; should always be covered. Some experts say that it needs at least 8 different species of ground covers to really be healthy, because every different species will exudate into the soil different compounds. So if you have just like one plant, like grass, for example, like loam, how you call it, grass, like loam, loam. Yeah, if you have loam, just one species there, the soil will not be healthy. The soil gets healthy and diverse when it has more chemicals, exudates out of plants that go in there. And so experts consider or recommend have at least 8 different species as ground covers. And that's something you will look for at some point when you have your gardens, and that'll be the best. Ecosystem dynamics, how can we approach to that? By promoting the corridors that Jan explained. We are supporting the ecosystem dynamics of this place, and for sure social aspects. I think thinking in this watershed project, we are working a lot in that. And about my main work during this time here has been diagnosing I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I've been diagnosing the land with my eyes of a biologist, like getting to understand what's here. You know what, which plants are here, which animals live here, and how's the soil. Uh, the soil is an ecosystem as well. How to understand what's here and what should we promote. So I have started a biodiversity inventory right now, plus than 300 native plant species, and I'm creating a document for that, like a manual for the community, plus 175 bird species, plus 30 mammal species. A lot of them we have realized because of the trap cameras that were installed in the trails in the forested areas. Uh, and yeah, for sure, soil and water analysis. We have started a bio indicator system for the quality of the water in the river. And that's by studying the macro invertebrates there, the animals there in the river. That's how we can analyze the condition of the water there. And what Jan mentioned it before. So this amazing uh, owl over there in the picture. It's a master I met one of these days in the river. They live here. They are residents here, and yeah, it's just so amazing to sit right next to an owl and spend some time with it, and it brings a lot of joy and a lot of information that I can probably translate right now, but it's an everyone experience, you know. Birds are amazing for those um, extraordinary moments. And so this is the way the manual is looking right now. This is an introduction. I will create a PDF. This is a beautiful duck that I have seen every once in a while here in the pond over there. It's called the black-bellied whistling duck. Yeah, it comes and goes. It comes and goes. It's not always here. And so this is the way it will look. I was just wanting to come and introduce you how it will look like a picture, the best picture I can take out of the animal, and then the scientific name, the common name in English and the common name in Spanish, as well as a few information of it. But right now, if you have the name, if you have the scientific name mainly, you can look for a lot of more information. But at least I will give some aspects there of each animal. This one is so beautiful. This one is a resident in La Covilla, for sure here as well. But I took that picture in La Covilla right above the common area. Uh, yeah, sometimes it wake me up at 5 a.m. So it's calling me to go out and see how everything is looking like. So this is a migratory one, the Tennessee warbler. Yeah, it comes here part of the time, like I think by November, you can start seeing all those migratory birds here, November, December. And this is one of them, so beautiful. And it's just on a plant that it's a beautiful vine where she or he is like getting the nectar or the insects. This is a beautiful vine that you can plant in your house. If you want to see that bird, just plant that species of plant in your house. It's a native, so you don't need to care as much in the water because those plants they know how to grow here. You don't need to bring plants from other parts of the world. They are beautiful. They're from here. You will not need a lot of water to keep them, and they attract the common fauna, the local fauna. This monkey maybe have wake you up in the last days. This is the Alouata palliata. So I'm also including some reptiles. Uh, for sure, this will be a document that will be increasing through time. Will be a living document. This one is so amazing because this one can dives and stay underwater for a while. You will see the same places that the spider at the beginning. You will see these and all. Like it's always there around the river on the rocks. And then this beautiful is also some insects. I'm starting like including insects, the most important ones. Like there are many insects here. There will be thousands of species of insects here, but I love some of them. I mean, I love all of them, but I can just check. It's a whole process. You know, this is not as easy for me just for identifying a plant. Normally, I need to wait until it's in bloom, and there are 12 more than 12,000 plants in Costa Rica, 12,000 species of plants. So I need to start a research to be sure that it's the species. Same thing with insects. It's even more difficult because there is less information about insects. But this bee is really well known. It's a stingless honey bee or mariola. It produces a really powerful antibiotic honey. And yeah, it will go to, I'm pretty sure like they will colonize some of the places in your house as you start building because it's one that is getting very adapted to the different materials that we use in between wood. We have rescued a few here. I rescue some with Anna in her place here. And yeah, what we do is we pass them like if you're going to remove that building or do something, you can also move them into boxes where you can keep them better and have them there because they do the work for making the forest or the garden productive. If you what you want is fruit trees, they will do the work for you. They will pollinate the flowers, and then you will have the fruits. They are amazing. And then this is the one of the flora with the plants. This picture was taken just a few days ago on a tree that it's when you're driving from here to San Mateo, and it's called pink shower or carao. Carao tree is it's amazing for regenerating your blood. The sap of the pot. It's even in every like central market of Costa Rica in the places where they sell the natural medicine, they will always have carao syrup. Yeah, it's really good for people who has anemia or some problem in the blood. This is one of them, and it's beautiful. There are many of them in the already in the nursery planted. So at some point, some part of the year, this area will look like that, pink and yeah. This is just a few plants I included there just to show you how it will look. This is a understory plant. This one as well. I am trying to add a few information of the propagation as well as of the uses, medicinal uses of the plants. This one is amazing. This tree we have reproduced a lot of those. We collected seeds out of the wild and we are reproducing them in the nursery. This one, let's say, I will say it will replace the carrots because it has a lot of carotenoids. It's a paste. What is surrounding the seeds is a paste that you can add. I mean, people use it for adding as a food coloring, but it also has a lot of carotenoids and properties similar to carrot. This is a beauty yellow trumpet tree that maybe you have seen in the last days. And so what we are doing is, yeah, propagating native plants. We have collected, we took a time like a year ago, we collected a lot of seeds. We did all these walks through the land, collecting seeds basically to have enough for propagating in the nursery. This flower over there is a native medicinal plant. It's called arrow leaf. We have reproduced several of them because I remember just finding this one by the creek at the very end of the property, the back, and I remember finding this arrangement of seeds. And I just with one hand, one pocket, I collected hundreds of them. You know, so it was easy, and we reproduced them, and they are now in the garden around. So in the nursery, there are grafted exotic fruit trees because we are also thinking that we know there are many exotic trees that do well here that will not require a lot of water. That's very important. Just focus on what can heal with the dry season. Because many trees, like let's say beautiful trees as mangosteen or these tropical fruits, like some of them that became really famous, mostly Asiatic, they need, they don't like the dry season. They will need a lot of water. So those are the ones that we are trying to avoid. More thinking in others like mango, for example. This is the best weather for mangoes. This is the capital of mangoes in Costa Rica, and probably it's very well known in the world. So we are grafting mangoes, which it means is that we are taking buds out of the really good trees that we know in the area from friends and from different areas, from like Covilla as well. We're cutting buds, and we have an expert here in the nursery who is grafting them into a common seed that has just germinated, and that's what it's called grafting. So there are many of them, and also some species that are some native that are endangered. We are taking care of those as well. We got maybe like 5 different species that are very endangered in the country because they have been cut for its wood, and now they are going to be we're going to find special places in the land for those, as well as medicinal gardens and other propagation areas. So this is in relation to the trails and camp traps. That was part of the work at the beginning of last year, creating, and at the end of the 2022 was creating trails in an area to be able to study the land. Uh, and so we created more than 5 kilometers of trails, and we decided the specific places for the trail camps to be. So they have been monitored for the last 9 months. There are like special places like this trunk over here. You see where the ocelot is, where the puma is. Is a it's a very successful camera. You can see there is one here and the other is right here. So you can see they are using that trunk for leaving their messages to each other. This was a few days before the puma was really curious. Okay, who was here? And and yeah, we have seen all type of behaviors there. It's so interesting to study behavior as well, because seeing those animals, but when you're walking is you have a really low possibility, probability of seeing them. And the one below, maybe you don't know that one. It's called Tolomuco. It's an amazing animal mammal. Yeah, I really like that one. It's also predator. Uh, it's the scare of the chickens. Yeah, we used to live in a farm upstream the river where we had chickens, and this guy ate a lot of our chickens.
Is that one also known as a Terra?
Tyra, yeah,
Yeah, I
Tyra,
saw one
yeah.
on my property when I was first looking.
Wait, here,
Yeah, but
and you just
Mike
saw
is,
it.
yeah,
Excellent.
Mike is the drainage there by the
Nice.
property. It's beautiful.
So nice. Excellent. Nice. Are you living here as well? Ah, good. So this is yeah. I just took show this picture to show you like the way we were doing trails. That the trails need maintenance. That's another thing that we should consider. We can create trails for the people, but they will need maintenance, and that's a cost. We should decide how to really have this network of trails in a way that is sustainable for economically. And yeah, see, I think I wanted to share as well that we have seen a few dogs. We have some stars, some dogs that are the stars in these cameras, and they have been passing through. We have seen a lot more mammals that I'm not mentioning, but we have seen a group of dogs that it's something that make us think in what will happen here when people come here and want to have dogs or cats, or because it's an impact. So it's something that I don't have an answer right now, but it's something to have in mind. Kind of creating a by law or something related on if you have a dog, how you will keep it in your house, and that's important because they for sure impact nature.
That was the question I had too about cats and cats running free because they kill so many birds.
So many,
And I know I love cats. I have my cat, but I don't let him run free.
yeah. That's the solution, I feel.
Yeah.
I mean, I know emotionally it's good for people to have pets, but the responsibility is in having it in a place that is not affecting wildlife. Okay. So we are also diagnosing the soil. We have been diagnosing the soil, and this is really important because, as you can see there in the picture, we are collecting a sample over there. And as I told you, that's what we inherited in most of the areas here, which is, I mean, it's good that we're going to build in those areas because those areas have been impacted by the last generations, as I told you, and the last activities. So right now we are checking mainly the areas of the common areas, how the soil is over there, and how while we implement what we will implement, it will improve. So now we have been analyzing different indicators related to the structure, to the physical part of the soil, as well as the biological part of the soil. We're measuring microbial biomass, microbial activity, how many uh, microorganisms are there. And so, yeah, also the chemical part. We're in that. And in the water, we are studying the animals there in the water. Those creatures over there are larvae of insects, insects larvae that live in different quality water. So that gives us a clue on how the water is in the river. We are monitoring that as well. And yeah, we will keep monitoring. I will love to keep doing that. As I told you, I really love life, and I would like to see this regenerating. This process happening. This I think Young shared a lot about the watershed and how we are working with this group. This is our country, Costa Rica, and this purple area here, it's what represents the Sus Maria watershed, which includes the Machuca River over there. So I just wanted to share that, yeah, this is the part in Costa Rica where we are. And I feel like even politically, the land should be divided in that way, in a way that is easier to take decisions of the land in the different areas of the watershed. We are right in this place. We are in the watershed in the place where the water lost speed because it comes from higher elevations, more than 100 springs on top of here. Like 10 kilometers away is where the springs, where the longest spring is. And so here the river lost speed and it creates a very special environment. And also that's why this soil is really good quality because maybe it has been brought apart. And yeah, I just had this little quote over there. One bird sitting quietly on a leafless tree branch sang the word into a premature spring because he gave all of his strength to his art and fretted not of the yield he will bring. Yeah, this is a picture of how a nice agroforestry will look of this land. And this is a magnificent tree that we are reproducing here that is a native. And locally, they call it cereza, but I have studied more about it because it's really tasty and it's known as the peanut butter fruit. So there are many of those already growing and there will be planted in. And that's what I want to share.